Am I the idiot for wanting to divorce my husband for trying to cheat? I, 30F, have been married to my husband for almost 7 years. 4 years ago, I was looking through my husband's phone to find a recipe that he wanted me to make that he had his sister-in-law send him. Honest. Our phones were never something we kept from each other, and he would often play on my phone looking at pictures of our kids and stuff. While looking for the message from my SIL, I saw messages from a woman I was constantly getting friend recommendations for. I thought it was one of his cousins because his family is large and doesn't stay in touch very well. I clicked on the message and found that she was actually a former coworker, and the last message he sent was him confessing his feelings for her and her nicely telling him she had known for a while but wasn't interested. Apparently, he had been very flirty at work. He worked closely with 2 of my family members at the time. After that, I went through his pictures and found nudes of several women. I started to cry and confronted him. He deleted everything and tried to act like I was crazy and making it up. He later admitted that what I saw was true. We agreed to try to make things work since nothing came of his confession to this woman, and we have children together. I was an emotional mess at this point. Fast forward 2.5 years and my husband works someplace else. One morning I get messages from a guy sending me screenshots of this guy's girlfriend texting my husband talking about cute nicknames for each other and warning my husband that her boyfriend found out about them and was going to warn me. I showed my husband, and again he deleted everything and tried to act like I was overreacting, saying that they worked together and were just friendly. At this point I didn't really react. A couple days later the girl messages me saying that my husband had kissed her multiple times and things were far from just friendly. I blocked her and I told my husband that I'm inclined to believe her even though he insists that she is lying. I have no idea if there's been other women. For years my husband didn't drive and I had to take him everywhere, so I don't think he's cheated more than what I've found. He doesn't feel like these 2 times are really cheating because nothing ever came to fruition, but I feel like the nudes, which he claims he got online, and the messages that he deleted are cheating enough. I've been trying to let it go, but I'm constantly thinking about it and wondering how stupid I must look to him. I want a divorce so bad, but I'm worried it will destroy our kids. I don't think my husband will make a point to be in their lives if we divorce. It hurts so bad that he would do this. He was my best friend for a while before we got together. I feel like I've lost everything from him and I can't move on. Comment 1. Also, OP is worried about divorce destroying the kids. I feel like if she stays, her kids will watch the destruction of their mother's sanity, and that seems much worse of an outcome. I'd much rather divorce and comfort my children, whilst knowing the foundation of my life isn't hanging on a man's decision to be faithful or not. Comment 2. So much truth in this statement. Children involved in this dynamic are unfortunately socialized into accepting and/or tolerating far more abusive behaviors from people. The young boys learn that screaming, shouting, infidelity and physical violence are all perfectly normal and expected responses to difficult emotions/situations, and the young girls are shown that these are the qualities her future relationships, romantic or platonic, should embody. It's such a sad situation all around. Conversely, my mother is and has always been very mentally abusive. I've watched her go through so many abusive relationships, typically mentally abuse, as I think she finds comfort in familiarity. When I was 4 to 6 I saw her be physically abused, cheated on and humiliated. I even got swept up in a fight once. But my mother was raised in a household with favoritism. She was the oldest and literally hated physical abuse in the form of beatings for very minor things, constant mental abuse and gaslighting. Shit, she was thrown off a horse at 15, 2 years before I was born, and suffered severe brain damage, which made her susceptible to violent outbursts. And her own father was screaming at her for not being able to write properly 2 weeks after she was discharged from the hospital. If you can spare a child's life from abuse and neglect of any kind, it also saves them from a lifetime of abuse and neglect. So many people don't see that their upbringing was inappropriate and thus can't identify when they're experiencing the same cycle later on. ETA, or you end up like me. I didn't get to have a childhood because I was too occupied with being my mother's emotional support, as well as her biggest target for abuse, that I didn't know was abuse until I went through 4 years of intense therapy. I have thankfully broken out of the toxic familial cycle my bloodline is cursed with. The abuse ends and heals with me. It's a huge responsibility, but I take pride in how accomplished I am in life compared to where I could have been. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for walking out on my husband over an unexpected stepdaughter? My husband was previously married. He and his wife both had affairs during the marriage, though he openly admits to doing so more than her. They had some fundamental compatibility issues for sure. They ended the marriage when their daughter Julie was 9. He and I met a year later. Julie is now 16, and our kids together are 5 and 3. A few days ago, he tells me he has something to tell me. He tells me that an affair partner of his recently tracked him down and told him he was the father to her now 10-year-old, Olivia, who was of course conceived during his first marriage. He had gone on a work trip out of town that was actually to see his former AP, get a DNA test, and meet Julie. He tells me that when he got there, it was immediately clear that the AP was really struggling mental health-wise, and she sprung it on him that she wanted him to take primary custody, which he had on the spot agreed to do because, what else was he supposed to say? I was pissed. We're supposed to be a team and he should never have agreed without talking to me. And while intellectually I knew he had affairs during his first marriage, seeing the proof is very different. I am already juggling 2 toddlers with a stepdaughter that doesn't even want to be here most of the time because teenagers. I don't need another angsty stepdaughter that I'm the primary care provider for. I work PT from home, he works FT outside the house, so I'm with all of the kids way more than him. He's convinced Olivia and Julie, who does not know yet, will get along great. He asked if I was really going to bar my stepdaughter from our house, and I said I didn't even know I had another stepdaughter until today. How is that fair? He said we didn't have a choice and the outcome would be the same either way. I was so angry that I had to leave the house and go to my sister's where I am now. He's begging me to come back because Julie gets here tomorrow and he wants us to be a united front. He needs to tell her ASAP before she finds out on her own via other means. But my sister said I just needed to roll with it, and Olivia's existence had nothing to do with my relationship and wasn't Olivia's fault anyway. And while Julie hasn't yet been told, Julie's mom, his ex, has, and her reaction was very low-key, immediately fine with it because it's not like she didn't know he cheated. Comment 1. NTA. If he wanted you as a united front, he should have brought you in on the process from the beginning. If you stay with him, then yes, you will need to accept this child and welcome her as your own. It's not fair to her to have the adult who's her primary caregiver treating her as an imposition. But for exactly that reason, your husband should never have agreed to take her in without your involvement, frankly. Even if he was committed to taking her in no matter what, he should have invited you into the process earlier and listened to what you had to say about it. Also, for exactly that reason, you shouldn't go back unless you're genuinely prepared to welcome her without reservations. If you don't think you can do this, you're better off leaving for good, partly for your own protection and partly for hers. Comment 2. This OP. He is pulling the united front card after going behind your back to meet with his old affair partner. And hiding that he has a child from you. If he's willing to do that, what reason do you have to believe that his version of events with the AP is truthful at all? I highly doubt that this was as sprung on him as he's leading you to believe. If I were you, whether you stay with him or not, I would tell him to hand over the AP's contact information right there and then immediately independently confirm with her his version of events. This is not the child's fault at all, and if you stay with him you should be prepared to welcome her into your home. But your children deserve at least one parent that believes in treating one's spouse with dignity, respect, and honesty, and not standing for inferior treatment. Good luck. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for cheating on my husband with my co-worker? Many people in my life had said I'm wrong for this, so I wanted others' opinions. I, 30F, have been married to my husband, let's call him Damien, 32M, for 7 years. Our marriage wasn't like most people I know, we only got married because he got me pregnant and needed to step up as the father. We met each other in college and we started off as friends, but eventually I started developing feelings for him. He was dating a girl at the time and they would argue a lot. Every time they would argue, Damien would come to me for comfort. I didn't mind because the person I liked relied on me. One night they broke up and he got me pregnant. Although it was pretty clear he didn't love me and didn't want a child by me, he stepped up and married me. My husband was getting his PhD and was working in the hospital, so money wasn't an issue. Because of the baby, I had to drop out of college, and once I was able to work I decided to apply as a kindergarten teacher, although my husband didn't think it was necessary. Our marriage was unhappy, we never made love after I had my son, and it was constant arguing. He would belittle me and remind me how I was just a pick-me-up. I want to also add that I'm vegan, and ever since I married him I had to quit because he didn't want to eat a salad for dinner every day. While working at the elementary school, I met a friend, I'll call him Brandon. Brandon was the kindest person I've ever met. He would check up on me to make sure I'm okay, we'd go on picnics together with our kids, he has one daughter, and since we were both vegan he'd give me some vegan recipes. Brandon made me feel true happiness unlike my husband, and I was starting to fall in love with him. One day we were eating brunch and he admitted to having feelings for me. I told him I liked him too, but admittedly couldn't leave my husband considering he overpowers me financially. Brandon said that he didn't care and still loved me and would start hooking up after that. One night me and Damien did the nasty for once and I got pregnant. I wasn't happy, but he was overjoyed. I felt guilty because I realized how much of a shit partner he was and fell out of love with him. Out of guilt, I admitted to him I cheated on him out of guilt, and of course he wanted a divorce. He was angry even though he's never shown any love to me. He also didn't believe the baby was his and understandably asked for a DNA test once the baby was born. We had gotten a divorce and Brandon had let me move in with him and his daughter. Given Damien's wealth, the courts gave him full custody of our son and I had visitation. Once my daughter was born we got the DNA test and Damien found out she was his. He also demanded custody of her, but I just gave him visitation. Now that my life has settled down I decided to tell my friends and family about this, and they all called me the TA. Comment 1. You have many friends that have gotten a divorce because someone cheated? That is rough. The few times I have seen such proceedings, due to work associates and such, the divorce lawyer has always used it as way to show a lack of moral character and claimed that made the parent less fit to have custody. Comment 2. If you are a good parent, your private marital issues shouldn't be passed down to your children. You can be in an unhappy marriage and still be a wonderful parent. If my husband cheated on me, I wouldn't try to punish him by taking our children away from their father. You don't use children to punish your spouse for hurting you. That so many of you think that is perfectly okay is astounding to me.